Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, how you doing? Welcome into the program. So today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have a full segment full of a lot of different articles, including the hacking of the pipeline that just happened a couple of hours ago. We'll be talking about that. Everything from Apple and their recent reinvestment into Corning Glass, and of course, many other topics that, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we highly encourage you to stick around. So, everyone, before we get to that, though, ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, everything you need to know about Computer America. You can find right there on our website. So, hey, be sure to check that out. Also, while you're there, check out reviews, articles, show notes, the podcast. If you can't listen to us live on IRN, you can always, of course, catch the podcast after the fact. Also, follow us on social media to find out about contests and giveaways. And I think that social media is probably the best place to reach out. And of course, you can always join us in our live chat room, twitch.tv/Computer America. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started with computer and technology news. Again, brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, let's go ahead and go to, how about this first story? This should be a pretty obvious one, and so we shouldn't have to spend too much time on it, but Sony. You remember the folks, they make the PlayStation 5, and unfortunately, if you are in the market for a new PlayStation 5, I've even heard people who were jonesing for even like a PlayStation 4 because the PlayStation 5 was so hard to find. If you're hoping for one of the next-gen consoles, well, just like everything else that uses a computer chip, it is going to be hard to find. PlayStation 5, and this coming directly from Sony, saying that it could be sometime until 2022 before supply meets demand. Now, they said that this is from the Sony chief financial officer, saying that I don't think demand is calming down this year, and even if we secure a lot more devices and produce many more units of the PlayStation 5 next year, our supply wouldn't catch up with demand. So that's coming from Sony, and obviously they've been warning for months that worldwide shortages of semiconductors and other components have made it hard to increase production for the PlayStation 5. And, that's the part that's kind of getting a lot of people is like this semiconductor shortage, what's happening, why is it happening? And again, my best recollection of what happened was obviously with the start of the pandemic, a lot of the car companies canceled a lot of their orders because, they just didn't know how long it would happen. Commuting, took a nosedive. Businesses all went into defensive mode and, they canceled a lot of orders. So when the pandemic lingered a little bit and obviously companies started to come out of their shell and tried to, replace their orders for those vehicles, the issue that happened there was that, you can't just on a dime cancel 50 million or 100 million orders of semiconductors and then hope that the supply is still there. All the factories started to increase production, but obviously a lot of backed up, pent up demand for cars led to this kind of domino effect that has dominoed into everything. So not only cars, but computers, graphics cards, video game consoles, just in general, are so hard to come by because of this shortage. Now, with that being said, they report this gentleman also reportedly told analysts that he can't imagine demand dropping easily for the PlayStation 5, and that the situation would continue to put pressure on Sony to increase supplies in any way it can. But the company is already taking a loss on every system sold. Spending more money to secure scarce chips over competitors would be difficult and, of course, almost impossible. The few chips that are being produced, those are going to be in demand from not only every NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, and all that kind of thing, but it's also going to be in demand from Ford, GM, any car company out there are also going to be extremely competitive. Not to mention things like farming equipment and tablet and device makers, smartphone manufacturers. It's a real mess out there. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on here and just say that today, of course, Nintendo is facing the same semiconductor shortage as Sony, and obviously Microsoft is facing the same one as well. They are all in it together, and they're all going to try to be, kind of be out of it. So let's certainly see. Now, with that being said, that's story number one. Story number two, actually, I have just the story, this one, coming to us from the Associated Press. And when the Associated Press is the article that we're talking about, this is really recent news. This just screams hilarity to me. So, Cyberattack on U.S. pipeline is linked to a criminal gang. May Anderson, Frank Bajak, and this is Bajak, and this again from AP News. Well, this just happened earlier today, and it's going to cause some issues. And something that we've been warning, not just on the program, but experts have been warning for quite some time now, is that, infrastructure in general is going to be under attack. Not just schools and prisons and, kind of financial institutions, but water treatment facilities and, kind of garbage dumps and anything else that is kind of critical to our day-to-day needs, that if you can cripple that, you can hold it ransom. So the cyber extortion attempt that has forced the shutdown of a vital U.S. pipeline was carried out by a criminal gang known as Dark Side. And they cultivate a Robin Hood image of stealing from corporations and giving a cut to charity, two people close to the investigation said on Sunday. Hackers for good, but again, hacking people that they deem evil or too rich, and then, of course, giving it to a portion to charity. All of that sounds absolutely awful. But you know what? I guess even hackers have to have some kind of PR. Now, the shutdown, meanwhile, stretched into its third day, with the Biden administration loosening regulations for the transport of petroleum products on highways as part of all hands-on-deck effort to avoid disruptions in the fuel supply. Third day in a row. This is a pretty big issue. So experts said that the gasoline prices are unlikely to be affected if the pipeline is back to normal in the next few days, but that the incident should serve as a wake-up call to companies about the vulnerabilities that they face. And they say that this is also the worst cyber attack to date on critical U.S. infrastructure. So cyber attack versus obviously a terror attack or anything like that. This was all done, and kind of fingers are being pointed at a group of hackers from Russia. So DarkSide again is a group, and it's they mentioned that it is among ransomware gangs that have professionalized a criminal industry that has cost Western nations tens of billions of dollars in losses over the past 3 years. So there you go. It's, again, a criminal organization called DarkSide, and they purportedly have this idea that they, again, are stealing from these greedy, money-hungry companies and giving some to charity, giving some giving the lion's share to themselves. And they're only picking on the big guys. They're only punching up. It's so hard to kind of take this seriously when they're crippling an entire industry, and this could lead to higher gas prices, which larger companies would absorb that kind of cost at almost no problem whatsoever. But the people who really are affected by gas prices are those who are struggling, those who can't afford an extra $10 in gas a week. It's really going to cause problems for a lot of people. Now, this was a Georgia-based colonial pipeline. It carried gasoline and other fuel from Texas to the Northeast. It delivers roughly 45% of fuel consumed on the East Coast, and that is according to the company. This thing was vital. Now, they claim that it does not attack hospitals and nursing homes, education, or government targets, and that it donates a portion of its take to charity. It has been active since August, and typical of most potent ransomware gangs, is known to avoid organizations in former Soviet bloc nations. There you go. Colonial did not say whether it has paid or negotiated a ransom, but DarkSide neither announced the attack on its dark website nor responded to an Associated Press reporter's queries. The lack of acknowledgement usually indicates a victim is either negotiating or has paid. Here's the thing. It's this type of attack that, again, is going to cause so many problems, and it's still causing problems. They said they are sorry, and they are going to try to be less disruptive with their future hacks. It's so crazy that this is happening like this, and they're not just, if they want to be less disruptive, they already said they're not hitting institutions, they're not hitting hospitals or nursing homes, they're not hitting government targets, but they are hitting infrastructure, which affects so many people. And they have already apologized, saying, "Hey, I'm sorry that we did this, and we don't want to be so disruptive." It's pretty crazy. So they mentioned that average ransoms paid in the U.S. jumped nearly threefold to more than $310,000 last year. The average downtime for a victim is about 21 days, according to the firm Coveware. They said that ransomware is absolutely out of control and one of the biggest threats we face as a nation. The problem is that most companies are grossly underprepared to face these threats, which is kind of the point that we've been getting at here on the show. It's, obviously banks are going to be so well fortified, and if you're just going straight for the money, probably not going to happen. Government agencies are, kind of so-so. They're beefing up all the time, and places like the FBI, CIA, the White House, they're all expecting, kind of cyber attacks at all times. But who could consider, just off the top of my head, gas line, obviously, or a gas pipeline, like we've been saying, but what about anything else? What about, the software that manages the United States Postal Service? What about software that manages water and trash and, kind of daily lives and need to need? What about shipping software and things like that? There's so many potential targets because so much of our day-to-day lives has been moved to the internet, to cloud infrastructure. These organizations, and probably, let's face it, Russia in particular, is very aware and very active in finding new exploits and new targets to kind of hit this with. So yeah, I don't know what the best answer is. Obviously, the best answer would be anyone who manages one of these has to harden that target. It has to, make sure that all of the databases are secure. Make sure everything is, two-factor. Make sure everything is either using strong passwords or is under monitor in some way. Gone are the days, it seems like, that you can just kind of open everything up to the internet, have some kind of protocol in place, and just have everything accessible with no level of protection. Yeah, if it's online, it has to be protected to the best extent that it could. So this one is, I hope that it wraps up fast. Let's see. So I think that's about it that we have for this one. One of the people close to the Colonial investigation said that the attackers stole data from the company, presumably for extortion purposes. Sometimes stolen data is more valuable to ransomware criminals than the leverage they gain by crippling a network, because some victims are loath to see sensitive information of their dumps online. So, let's see. Yeah. So the government is all over this one. I'm sure that the 3-letter agencies are investigating as best they can. Again, everything points to Russia, I think, with this one. It's very, very, very concerning. So with that being said, how about our next story? Speaking of not configuring your databases, this goes on the other foot, though. Check this one out. It's not just critical infrastructure and the quote unquote good guys or the companies that forget to do this, but this one from Info Security Group: misconfigured database exposes 200,000 fake Amazon reviewers. That's a big number. So, they mentioned that a misconfigured database has exposed what appears to be a major coordinated scheme by Amazon vendors to procure fake reviews for their products. Obviously, one of the things that made Amazon Marketplace so valuable and so useful to so many people was, the review system. Everyone always went to Amazon for customer reviews, and the hackers, or maybe not hackers at this point, the scammers know that. And so if it has a good review, well, hey, it's probably going to be bought. Now, they mentioned that this was found by an AV review site. Safety detectives found the China-based Elasticsearch server exposed online without any password protection or encryption. And by the way, it's so easy to find these things. When there's no password or encryption, there's actually like a Google search that you can do and find any of these databases without passwords. It's just like a Wi-Fi network where you can see if they're password protected or not. So hey, if it doesn't have a password, it's open for perusal. This particular one was a 7 gigabyte trove, which had 13 million records, including email addresses and WhatsApp, Telegraph phone numbers. Phone numbers of vendors' contacts, plus email addresses, surnames, PayPal account details, and Amazon account profiles of reviewers. So, according to safety detectives, fake review scams typically begin with the vendor sending their reviewer contacts a list of products for which they would like a 5-star review. So, this is first initiated by the people selling the product, just in case anyone thinks, oh, well, they're innocent. No, they have to, they have to want to be on this list. After leaving the review and sending the vendor a link, the reviewer will be paid via PayPal to compensate them for the product purchase and will be allowed to keep the product itself as payment. So it sounds like they're, think about, this is probably not done with cars. This is probably done with cheap umbrellas, mouse pads, things that are just, $2 or $3 or even pennies to make. The money is spent, and then the money is reimbursed back to kind of the purchaser, and the purchaser gets to keep the whatever product, probably counterfeit or next to useless, or next to having zero value, and they get to keep that as the compensation. So, the review site claims that the leak implicated about 200,000 individuals in such schemes. They mentioned that they discovered the database on March 1st, and it was secured around a week later, although the researchers weren't able to track down its owner, saying that given the extent of the records and vendors included in the database, it is possible that the server is not owned by Amazon vendors running the scam. The server could be owned by a third party that reaches out to potential reviewers on behalf of the vendors. Either way, though, it's a massive treasure trove of potential fraud and scams. You got to be careful on Amazon. Definitely have to be careful. Now, with that being said, third parties might post a picture of the product on Facebook or WeChat, asking for reviews in return for free products. The server could also be owned by a large company with several subsidiaries, which would explain the presence of multiple vendors. What's clear is that whoever owns the server could be subject to punishment from consumer protection laws. And to make this point even more, I found this other story here that shows that it's such a multifaceted problem that Amazon itself is trying to, really trying to combat it from both sides. The reviews are one thing, but then the counterfeit product themselves, knowing that you buy a product and it's not just some cheap rip-off, knockoff, something that's going to fall apart in a matter of seconds. Well, Amazon's trying to combat that as well, saying that Amazon, the company, has seized and destroyed 2 million with an M, counterfeit products in 2020 alone. This is crazy. And obviously with the uptick in online shopping and online retail, you could definitely see that that number is only going up. Now, Amazon seized and destroyed over 2 million counterfeit products that sellers sent to Amazon warehouses in 2020. And, quote, blocked more than 10 billion suspected bad listings before they were published in our store. So those are probably ones that were held up. They probably held up 10 billion. That doesn't mean that 10 billion listings were, blocked forever. Just they were held up for review. Now, in 2020, they quote, we seized and destroyed more than 2 million products sent to our fulfillment centers and that we detected as counterfeit before being sent to a customer. In cases where counterfeit products are in our fulfillment centers, we separate the inventory and destroy these products so they cannot be resold elsewhere in the supply chain. At least Amazon is, kind of working on it. So that's something. That's certainly something. Now, with that being said, Amazon said it invested over $700 million and employed more than 10,000 people to protect our store from fraud and abuse. And at this point, for those who don't know the actual numbers, Amazon actually employs over 1 million people. They're a massive company. So the fact that they're dedicating 10,000, which would be, a fully 1% of their workforce, to detecting and getting rid of counterfeit, I mean, that's decent. That is certainly decent. More so than I can say for things like Facebook that, don't dedicate nearly enough resources to taking down fraudulent or fake accounts. So Amazon mentions other things like stricter seller verification system, people who are just trying to create new accounts all the time to keep selling counterfeit products, because obviously if you get caught once, just dust yourself off and make a new account. But looks like they're stopping that. And Amazon monitors product detail changes for fraud as well. So they mentioned things like bait and switch reviews, in which sellers trick Amazon into displaying reviews for unrelated products to go to the top of Amazon search results. In one case, a $23 drone with 6,400 reviews achieved a 5-star average rating only because it had thousands of reviews for honey. Yes, there was a cheap drone, but many of those reviews were actually for honey. And after they mentioned that at some point the product listing had changed from a food item to a tech product, but the reviews for the food product remain. After a purging of old reviews, the same product page now lists 348 ratings at a 3.6 star average. That seems like such a glaring flaw to Amazon's review system, that they would let them not only change the title, which, makes sense. Sometimes you update things and, clarify things. So being able to change the images, title, and the product, I kind of get. But to be able to change it to the point where you change a honey product, a product that is literally honey that you eat, and being able to switch it to a drone that you certainly should not eat, it's really incredible that Amazon even lets that happen. Amazon is trying to prevent recurrences of this problem, saying in a new report it scans more than 5 billion attempted changes. 5 billion attempted changes to product detail pages daily for signs of potential abuse. When a service gets this big, and, again, I'm going to attribute this to Facebook because they have, about 2 billion monthly users. When you're that big, these numbers sound impressive, but that's what they have to do to actually get a handle on their marketplace. Without it getting away from them. It only takes one smart person or one person to try to trick the system, and at that point, it's thousands, tens of thousands of literal people trying everything they can to compete with an artificial intelligence or a computer program that Amazon is trying to use to beat this. So automation is great. Automation is clearly the answer, but automation has its downfall. It has its flaws, and nothing is foolproof, as Amazon is sure to find out. So, with that being said, the self-service tool only accounts for a tiny percentage of blocked listings. For every one listing removed by a brand through our self-service counterfeit removal tool, our automated protections remove 600 listings through scale technology and machine learning that proactively address potential counterfeits and stop listing on Amazon store. So they're trying, and Seize and Destroy 2 million stopped about, in the billions of fake products. And it's, but Amazon has said that fewer than 0.01% of all products sold on Amazon received a counterfeit complaint from customers. Still, it's such a massive marketplace. It's even 0.01% is millions and millions of products. So there you go. It's something to definitely keep an eye on. So there you go. Story number 3. Story number 4. Just a quick update. We're not going to rehash this whole thing. If you'd like to, go check out last Thursday's show. I believe is when we last talked about this. But New York Attorney General, they were the ones looking into the internet service providers providing false and fraudulent net neutrality emails during the open comment period by the FCC. So the FCC back, when Trump was president, during the whole thing back in 2017, when net neutrality was stricken from the books. There were millions of comments left by supposed bots or these fake review sites that, hey, get a coupon if you just have to fill out your name and address and that kind of thing, or enter for a chance to win this giveaway or do this or that. They were collecting untold amounts. Well, not untold. It was millions. It was like 12 million people's contact information, and in some cases, dead people's information to leave fake reports, and left over 18 million fake comments to the FCC. And by the way, they even sent over 500,000 letters, like physical letters. Like, who does that anymore? Physical letters to Congress in support of the repeal. Now, obviously, there was fraud on both sides. They linked one college student left about 9 million comments for the preservation of net neutrality. So yeah, all it takes was a couple of companies or one individual. It was it was a very stressful time, I think, for both sides. And to the FCC and to Ajit Pai in particular, it didn't really matter. They looked at all of it and said, there's too much noise. There's so much fraud. There's so much lying on both sides, which there was. He said, net neutrality is being repealed. That's just the will of the people. That's just what we're going to rule on, and it is what it is. So there you go. Let's see. I think that's about it. Oh, and that's what we were talking about Thursday. The update today is that, the New York Attorney General declares top ISPs committed net neutrality fraud. So that was the big news today. Is that he's actually released. He released his findings, and again he reiterated that, ISPs definitely spoke out against this. So they mentioned that, its members include AT&T, CenturyLink, Charter, CTIA, the Wireless Association, Comcast, Cox, NCTA, the Internet and Television Association, Telecommunications Industry Association, TIA, and U.S. Telecom, the Broadband Association. They were all a part of this astroturfing campaign to see net neutrality taken down. So there you go. That's your update. It's the U.S. Attorney General actually said it. Okay. I think that for our next story, we're at the bottom of the hour, so we should make this a good one. How about the Tesla crash? I think we're going to do next because there is a preliminary report that was released today that we can go over. But I think that, because we were just talking about the U.S. Attorney General, or at least the New York Attorney General, so we can talk about the U.S. one. Let's see. And we'll go ahead and do that. Pause that there. Facebook is doing something very, very stupid that I have no idea why they're doing it. U.S. Attorney General, the U.S. State Attorney General urged Facebook to cancel plans for Instagram for younger kids. This is by David Shepardson for Reuters. Makes absolutely no sense. To summarize it as best I can, Mark Zuckerberg thinks that he wants to launch an Instagram for kids under the age of 13. Right now, you have to be over the age of 13 to make an account, or if you're under 13, you have to be linked to a kind of like a parental account. And that parental account will, monitor your messages, what pages you go, who you like, who you associate with, that whole thing. But anyways, the under 13 experience doesn't really exist for Facebook and Instagram. But also, Mark Zuckerberg thinks that he wants to create this, this version of Instagram for kids that are under 13 that he thinks will be devoid of advertising. So he says. He'll claim that it's completely safe. They'll be proven that, as soon as you're over 13, your account would transition to a full-fledged account, and all the protections and restrictions that would happen are completely lifted. But until then, you are completely restricted in who you talk to, what messages you can receive, what you can view, what you can post, what you can share. My big question is, if you can't advertise to these kids, if you can't, which again is against so many laws, if you can't advertise to them, if you can't make money off of them, if you can't package their data and sell it, if you can't, kind of do anything that would kind of make you money from this service, why is Zuckerberg trying so hard to do this? And the obvious answer is, two things. One, he wants to get kids addicted young to social media and Instagram. And that way, he has a direct pipeline for kids that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old to start, when they're forming their habits, when they are, that's probably the best way to say it. When they're forming their habits on their daily routines in their lives, Mark Zuckerberg wants social media to be part of that routine. So get them young, get them hooked, you're good. And then the second one is he actually is going to make money off of this. He's going to make money through partnerships, through deals, through advertising, through marketing data. In some way, he is going to make money off of this. It's not a charity that he is running. So they mentioned that a Facebook spokesperson said that the company had just started exploring a version of Instagram for kids and said it was committing to not showing ads in any Instagram experience we develop for people under the age of 13. Which again is like, why do you have it if you can't earn money on it? It's not good, I guess. It's so concerning. Anyways, so to continue on here, the reason that we're bringing this article up is that a group of 40 state attorney generals urged Facebook to not do this. Don't do it. It's a bad idea, and it's probably not good. So the company said it agreed any version of the photo sharing Instagram must prioritize their safety and privacy, and we will consult with experts in child development, child safety, and mental health, and privacy advocates to inform it. I feel like any of those groups would look at Facebook and, assuming they weren't getting paid ungodly amounts of money to say exactly what Facebook said, wanted to hear, any of those groups would look at Facebook and go, don't make this. From a child safety, from a privacy, from a child mental health standpoint, from, an advocacy standpoint, don't make this product. Kids don't need to be subjected to social media at such a young age. And then, of course, continuously through their teenage years. Now, they said that, so the bipartisan letter, which was signed by many attorney generals, it's easier to list which ones did not sign it than those who did. They mentioned that it's a shameful attempt to exploit and profit off of vulnerable people. Absolutely. So let's see. The letter said media reports from 2019 showed that Facebook Messenger Kids app intended for kids between ages of 6 and 12 continued a significant design flaw that allowed children to circumvent restrictions on online interactions and join group chats with strangers that were not previously approved by the children's parents. Last month, the Campaign for a Commercial-Free Childhood also called on Zuckerberg to not create a kids version, saying it would put them at great risk. Social media is about connecting people. When you're older, you have old high school friends, you have old work colleagues, you have family all over. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people that you might want to talk to. For a 6-year-old, their orbit should consist of a few friends, maybe from their neighborhood or things like that, their immediate family, and of course, any other extended family that they may associate with. But by and large, a 6-year-old does not really need to meet people all over the world. They don't need to, they haven't been at 13 different jobs and have, been years away from high school or college. There's not many associates that need access to a 6-year-old that don't already have access to that 6-year-old through their, through their their familial circle or their friend circle. Social media is great for broadening your social group. But again, a 10-year-old does not need that kind of social group. And imagine all the people that would suddenly have access to. Like, if you create a platform like this, you are straight away developing essentially the potential. You are essentially curating that group of individuals who if someone is looking to prey on younger kids on the internet, you are putting them all in one place and essentially saying, this is where I need to go to find access to these groups of individuals, to these kids. It's just all around so not a good idea. And I hope that Facebook really does back off of this. I know that they said that they're in the early stages, but man, they just need to back off that one. It's so bad. Anywho, let's go ahead and continue on here. That was story number, what are we up to? 6, 7. Lucky number 7. How about Tesla? The National Transportation Safety Board has released their preliminary findings on the Tesla crash that happened last month. That took so much water. It took 300,000 gallons of water to keep that lithium fire under control. And the plot thickens. Check this one out here. The National Transportation Safety Board, and again, you can see the hollowed out husk of the Tesla. The National Transportation Safety Board has released a preliminary report on the Tesla crash that killed 2 people last month, where there was the police report that said that there was no one in the driver's seat. So, yeah, that's what we have. That was the reporting that we had to go off of earlier, and that's what we obviously reported on, was that there was no one in the driver's seat, ran into a tree, caught on fire, killed the 2 individuals inside, and we don't know how the heck that happened because there were supposedly, Tesla has thrown out many things like this car was not licensed to use the self-driving feature. There was no one in the driver's seat, which is a prerequisite for self-driving. So on and so forth. There were so many ways that this could not happen, and yet here we are reporting that it did. Now, the plot thickens, though. Again, it's the crash occurred just 550 feet from the Tesla owner's home. The investigator viewed home security footage, which showed that the owner entering the car's driver's seat and the passenger entering the front passenger seats. The car leaves and travels about 550 feet before departing the road on a curve, driving over the curb and hitting a drainage culvert, a raised manhole, and a tree. The car then lit on fire and both occupants died. So, according to the footage, someone did enter the front and the passenger. According to the police, again, there was no one in the driver's seat, but there was someone in the passenger seat and someone in the back seat. How did the driver get into the back seat, according, again, to the police report? They mentioned that Teslas, like most modern cars, come equipped with a plethora of data logging features for crash investigators to use. But according to the report, the fire destroyed nearly all of it. So any kind of little black box, yes, a lithium fire is very, very hot and would destroy a lot of that evidence. Now, the only potentially useful hardware recovered from the car crash was the restraint control module, which the NTSB said can record data associated with vehicle speed, belt status, acceleration, and airbag deployment. It sustained fire damage, but they're evaluating whether any data can be recovered. As for who or what was driving the car at the time, the report only says, quote, "The vehicle was equipped with autopilot, Tesla's advanced driver assistance system. Using autopilot requires both the traffic-aware cruise control and the auto-steer system to be engaged. NTSB test of an exemplar car at the crash location showed that the traffic-aware cruise control could be engaged, but that the auto-steer was not available on that part of the road." So essentially what they're saying, they're repeating what Tesla said, which is the auto steer needs painted lines. Like on a highway or like any other city street, you need those painted lines to be able to activate it. But this side street, that this car crashed on, did not have those lines, so it could not have been done. As far as what exactly happened in the 550 feet from the driveway to the crash site, we'll have to wait for the full report. yeah, the plot thickens. It seems like the NTSB's report kind of says the autopilot was available, but it was not active, or at least it could not be activated. What actually happened? Who's to say? I guess if someone were to, be in the back seat without a seatbelt, maybe, over the time of the crash, I mentioned it hit a manhole, things like that. Maybe the person was jettisoned to the back of the car. Maybe, the person was trying to get out because, it was in a culvert. Maybe the door was unavailable and the person scrambled into the back seat to escape the fire that would have obviously, engulfed the car. And the front driver's side door maybe was jammed or, just wasn't available to be opened. So the person in the driver's seat climbed into the back to try to get out of the passenger seat. And then, of course, that's where the first responders came onto the scene, which would be no one in the driver's seat, dead person in the passenger seat, and a dead person in the back seat. Now that I'm thinking about it, that might be what happened. Person runs off the road, gets the door jammed, has to crawl into the back seat, but unfortunately cannot get out of the vehicle before the fire, unfortunately kills both people in the car. But overall, the NTSB seems to agree with Tesla to a point where autopilot probably could not have been activated unless they really, really, really went out of their way to find that out. And again, the fire destroyed a lot of the evidence that would be used to clear this up much, much faster. Who's to say? I don't know. I can't wait to find out what happened, because that's either gross negligence or just really unfortunate situation all around. Okay, how about for our next story, we talk about Apple. Two different stories. The first one's going to be about Apple and their investment in Corning. Corning is, it's so weird to say, but Corning is one of the coolest companies out there. I know they just make glass and, it's, but at the same time, the technology that they kind of bring to bear isn't a faster processor. It isn't, a fancy new monitor. It's really flexible, durable, scratch-resistant glass that is used in so many applications, and it's, let's face it, it is the input method that so many of us use. It's cool. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. Corning is cool. Well, Apple thinks so too, because they are investing $45 million. Yes. And yes, absolutely, we're going to continue following that Tesla crash. But $45 million investment from its advanced manufacturing fund, in addition to the $450 million it's already given the U.S.-based company. They said that according to Apple, the investment will expand Corning's manufacturing capacity in the U.S. and drive research and development into innovative new technologies that support durability and long-lasting product life. Because obviously, you don't want the glass to be the reason that something is no longer usable. Corning provides glass for a variety of Apple products, including the iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and so many more. The two companies have a history dating back to the original iPhone, and last year they collaborated on the iPhone 12 lineup with the ceramic shield technology, which they claim is tougher than any smartphone glass and makes its latest flagship 4 times more resistant to damage from drops. So here's the thing. When it comes to glass, you are actively competing against two things. Scratch resistant, which means it needs to be harder. And, so things don't obviously scratch it. The problem is when you go harder, the glass becomes more rigid, and you have to combat the rigidness, because if you drop it, they have a tendency to shatter. So how do you make something scratch resistant but also drop resistant? Because the two are very, very different and on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. But hey, that's what Corning does best. They mentioned that last year, we talked about the ceramic shield, and as well as Apple, Corning's Gorilla Glass is used in phones from countless Android manufacturers, including the Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. So Apple doesn't say exactly how Corning will use the $45 million investment, but it could be a foldable iPhone in 2023. So it could be potential research and development into a foldable iPhone. Something that other companies have been experimenting with, but really the one company with the best experience in foldable screens was, of course, LG. And LG famously got out of the smartphone market because they couldn't make it viable, and it just wasn't, wasn't profitable. So there you go. Let's see. So if it works, the glass could allow for durable foldable smartphones that don't require a layer of plastic protection used in Samsung's latest foldables. And there you go. So I don't know. Corning getting even more money, which is great. I'm honestly surprised that Apple hasn't purchased Corning outright, but I'm hoping that they do manage to get this foldable technology down. It's just the stuff of science fiction, and I think that everyone wants to see it happen at some point. So that's the first Apple story. The second Apple story is a bit of a rumor, and I'm interested if anyone out there would be even curious to see what it would look like. But, Apple and gaming doesn't really happen. You can play games on the Mac, and most games are available through Mac. And if it's not available through the Mac, you could run something like Parallels to be able to run video games on a Mac. But in general, when it comes to gaming consoles, gaming hardware, gaming platforms, anything like that, Apple's not really on the up and up. They're, even though they make the iPhone, which is, some would argue, smartphones in general are the most popular gaming console on the planet. They've, they have like the Apple Arcade, but they really don't do much with it. With that being said, it looks like times may be a-changing. Apple working on a portable hybrid console, which would have an enhanced GPU and ray tracing. Makes perfect sense because Apple obviously coming out with their M1 and I think soon the M2 with their new system on chip. They're making their own silicon. They are making their own hardware. They're making their own everything. Their next step is to make different things. If they're already making their own processors, they're already making their own graphics cards, why not make their own gaming console? They said that Apple is reportedly negotiating a deal for future games on its portable hybrid console, teaming with Ubisoft, according to the rumors. The developer has reportedly been sending out Apple TVs with an A14X Bionic chip to developers for testing in preparation for its purported console. So we could see the level of hardware that developers get to play with. And they say that we may never see Apple's console come to fruition, but the author says, I very much doubt Apple would just shelve this. Considering Bungie was making Halo for Apple Mac back in the day before Microsoft acquired the developer, the author would say if Apple is going to do something, it's going to be big. I actually didn't know that Halo was originally being developed for Apple, but still, I don't know. They have a tweet here from a gentleman saying that Apple preparing for a portable hybrid console like the Switch. A new AP is being prepared with a new model name, not the Apple A series or M series. It features enhanced GPU performance and ray tracing support. Future games are in negotiation with Ubisoft. Apple definitely needs to step up their video game front. I would say that they need to partner with Epic, but of course they're going through that big lawsuit with Epic. And, so many others, let's just face it, if NVIDIA can make their own Shield, the NVIDIA Shield console, and don't get me wrong, it's not popular. The NVIDIA Shield is not popular, but it has proven that other companies can make portable consoles and gaming devices. And say what you want about Apple, about them being overpriced and, maybe that they're not the most innovative lately, but they do make some of the best quality portables out there. The iPad is, very, very well built. iPhones are so incredibly durable. And, it's been a while since Apple had a flop. Whereas Samsung, you could look at it and go, well, remember the Samsung Galaxy, what was that thing? It was like the Galaxy Note 8, I want to say, was the one that kind of sort of exploded everywhere. And I mean more like a battery, malfunction. So I think that Apple, if they do this and they really dedicate themselves to it and they partner with good developers like Ubisoft, they could certainly carve out a niche for themselves in consoles. But, at least in portables, because right now it's really just the Switch. The Switch and other smartphones is really the only competition out there. I think that Apple could really do something. But they kind of do this thing where they release a piece of hardware, and I'm looking at things like their smart speaker, the Apple HomePod, and I'm also looking at things like the Apple TV. They kind of throw stuff out there, and if it doesn't, really become a massive success, they let it languish and keep it on kind of life support. So if Apple really throws themselves in and make sure that everything in the Apple Arcade is playable on this new console, they could have something definitely different there. Let's see, and it'll be the only way to get an affordable RTX video card. Yeah, the semiconductor shortage is hurting us all. I'm actually going to be in the market soon for a new computer, and I'm actually putting it off because I don't have access to parts, and I want to build my own computer. So yeah, times is tough out there. Times is tough. Even if you have the resources, having the access is something completely different. It's crazy. Okay, so with that being said, we have time for just one more story. We could do a poll, but that sounds boring. How about instead we do some cryptocurrency news? Yeah, we can go ahead and do that. Well, Elon Musk obviously hosted SNL recently and, talked a little bit about GT. So not bad. But now, actually not bad. That's very, very expensive. But still, cryptocurrency. Musk and his SpaceX to launch a Dogecoin moon mission. Because if you've been following Dogecoin to any extent, you know that people there say it's going to the moon. Check this out. In a tweet, he said the commercial space exploration firm will launch the Doge 1 mission to the moon early next year. And he said that it came as Dogecoin continued to fall after the technology billionaire said on television that it was a hustle. And last month, he tweeted that SpaceX was going to put a literal Dogecoin on the literal moon. And of course, the funny thing there is that obviously cryptocurrency is not, well, I guess it is literal. I mean, if you put it on a hard drive and you put that hard drive on the moon, you are putting a literal Dogecoin on the moon. But anyways, Canada's Geometric Energy Corporation announced that the Dogecoin-funded mission earlier on Sunday, and although the statement did not reveal its financial value. He said that, quote, this mission will demonstrate the application of cryptocurrency beyond Earth orbit and set the foundation for interplanetary commerce. SpaceX, the president of commercial sales, was quoted as saying. And here's the tweet here from Elon Musk himself, saying, SpaceX launching satellite Doge 1 to the moon next year, mission paid for in Doge, first crypto in space, first meme in space to the moon. This is the same guy who launched his red Tesla Roadster into space, and I think he put it in orbit around Mars. Same guy. To the moon, Elon. To the moon. So, let's see. Actually, is this? I hope this is a video. Please let it be a video. What? Mute tab. Nope. That's just the Dogecoin song. So there you go. Anywho, Mr. Musk's tweaks in recent months have helped to turn the once obscure digital currency, which was started by as a social media joke, into the fourth biggest cryptocurrency. And by the way, that whole thing is at one point was worth about $70 billion. But once Musk went on SNL and to the world said that it was a hustle, the price dropped from 70 cents down to 40 cents. It's pretty crazy. And let's see, there's a site that tracks the Roadster. Let's see, so Space Roadster Tesla. Let's see if we can find it real quick. So let's see. Here it is, whereisroadster.com. I found it. So yeah, if you're watching the video portion, you can see it here. The car is 178 million miles away from Mars, moving away from the planet at a speed of 33,596 miles per hour. 7 months, 3 days, 13 hours, 33 minutes, and 46 seconds since the first Mars close approach. So the Roadster is currently right here. There you go. So the music, so the music means that we're about done. So everyone, Doge is going to the moon one way or another. It's probably not going to be in price, but it's going to the moon in spirit. There you go. So everyone, thank you for tuning into Computer America. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll probably do a special segment. We'll let you know what it is. But until then, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.